Week 7 of the Massachusetts high school football season, and we're here at Viola Stadium on the campus of Boston College High School in Dorchester, Massachusetts, with our Thursday Game of the Week preview, as always brought to you by the Massachusetts Army National Guard. For more information, go to nationalguard.com. But as always, I'm Scott Barboza, joined by my co-editor, my compadre, Brennon Hall. As always, Brennon, we got another big one coming up here, the final non-conference test here for this BC High team that's been struggling with injuries and kind of coming together here in the last couple weeks, but they got a major challenge coming up Friday night here with number 2 Everett.
Yeah, and obviously it's a big rivalry game to begin with, and what do we say about rivalry games? You got to throw the books out the window.
Yeah.
I think they're fired up for this game. You can tell. I mean, they're starting to build some strength here. The last couple of weeks, they're getting some key players back after a barrage of injuries to start the season. But I mean, again, it's Everett. They're rolling right now. Other than a blip against Barnstable, they've looked pretty solid. So all around, it should be a pretty exciting game.
We'll start with the BC High defense, talking about, again, injuries. It starts right there at the beginning of the season with losing Luke Katarius, Jaleel Nelson, their big run stopper. They're kind of been in and out of the lineup a little bit here, but when we look at this BC High defense, what do we see?
You see some size in the trenches for the most part. You know, Jack McDonald plays both ways. He's a Virginia commit as an offensive guard. And in the secondary, you look at guys like Tim Johnson, who had a big interception in the Super Bowl last December against Needham. I think having Brandon Owens back this week, it brings some helps show up the run defense. There's some holes they got to fill there, and they're going to be in for quite a bit against that Everett line that averages over 300 pounds, led by one of the best prospects in New England, John Montellis, a Notre Dame commit. And really, it's a lot of different things that Everett can throw at you. You don't know what they're going to give you week to week. One week, Jakari Washington's a running back. Next week, he's a receiver. Next week, he's taking snaps in the backfield. Next week, he's selling hot dogs. I mean, I don't know what else to say. So, I mean, there's a lot of things they can throw at him, but I think they get the pieces out of returning. So.
Talking about a man that'll be a very prominent key to that both ways battle on the line will be Jack McDonald, and we get a little look at the defense from him.
So, Jack, I don't think enough needs to be said about this game here. It's a game you guys, I don't know if you circled on your calendar or whatnot, but it's obviously looking forward to a while. What's the atmosphere like this week around school?
Well, I mean, this has always been a huge game for BC High going against Everett. I mean, we always look forward to this game. We definitely marked off on our calendars from the beginning of the year. But, I mean, we've just been working hard, making sure everyone stays upbeat this week and gets really, emotionally ready and also physically ready. We've been running through plays and going over the fundamental stuff, trying to get reps, and we're really been working hard this week just to get ready for them. It's going to be a great game. We know how great of competitors they are, so we're looking forward to it.
I think one of the key matchups will be how you go against that line. As a defensive lineman, obviously you know a lot about Everett's line, averaging over 300. And I don't know if you're going to match up with Montellis every play, but just what are some of the things you're going to look to exploit against this Everett line?
I mean, obviously they have the size to their advantage. I mean, there's some big boys, but we've just been working on hopefully speed, trying to get around them. Just different stuff we've been working on. We've been putting bigger guys in on practice to go up against the D-line. Just trying to figure out what we can do with I mean, our coaches have done a great job getting us ready for that and doing a lot of different stuff with all the linebackers and everything, so I think we'll be ready for them.
Now, you had a rash of injuries to start the season. You got some of those pieces coming back. How has that helped the team out?
I mean, yeah, we've had a tough time with injuries so far this year, but we can already feel when people are starting to come back now. The energy is it's picking up, and people getting really excited. And I mean, when people get healthy, this team can do some great things. So we're excited, and we want to see what's going to happen. So.
You guys feel like you built some momentum, obviously having the bye week there, let you guys get rest up, and a nice solid win over a Marlboro team that's a little bit underrated. You guys feel like you're building momentum heading into this game?
Yeah, I mean, the whole year we've been. Doesn't matter if injuries go out, we're just gonna plug in, plug out. That's been our motto. Someone goes down, we plug someone else in, and the younger guys are getting a lot of reps and learning how to play. So I mean, that's definitely helping us. And Marlboro's a great team. They really fought hard, and it was definitely a good win. So I feel like we do have some momentum going into this game. But I mean, we know how good Everett is, and we know that obviously can't take them lightly at all. And we know that we have to prepare as good as ever. So we're going to continue to do that for Friday, and I think come Friday we'll be ready.
Thanks very much, Jack. Brennan, again, turning the page here to the Everett offense. It really doesn't matter kind of which way they've done it in recent weeks, but it's worked well for them. We see Jakari Washington come up with a big 3-touchdown game last week and a field position game against Zavarian. But, Everett, we talked about injuries with BC High, too. Obviously, injuries been a big story of the year so far for Everett. It's kind of been tough gauging what they're going to have week to week. We got Jalen Felix back in the mix there last week, but what can we see from this Everett offense as we progress down the home stretch here of the season?
Well, if you recall, I forget if it was week 2, week 3, what week it was. We went down there and they asked John DiBiase, who's the quarterback this week, and he listed every skill player. We started joking, it's a Spartacus offense. Everyone is a quarterback. Yep. So, but really, I've seen a number of things this year. I've been covering Everett for quite a while now, and I've seen every offense they've thrown at double wing. I saw a Notre Dame box out of the single wing one time. I saw you saw a spread last couple of years with Jonathan DiBiase in his record-setting high school career. Now you're going back, you see, and I don't really know how to describe it because, one play they'll run an unbalanced single wing formation. The next play they're going 4 receivers, but they're running a flanker across the line, across the play there. And they're doing a wildcat thing. You really don't know how to describe it, but they do have some speed here. We mentioned about Felix, who's a little banged up. You have to wonder if Kenny Collage will be in this week. He's kind of been in and out of the lineup with an ankle sprain. But Washington, some elite speed there. Guy who can break the game open seemingly on a dime. You get Gilly D'Souza, another guy who's very versatile, who's been their de facto quarterback. By all means, we should just call him quarterback at this point. But a guy who's really a versatile dual threat. He can throw the ball a little bit, and obviously running the ball behind that huge offensive line. We mentioned Montellis, but there's a number of guys on that line that can really do some damage. It allows them to do a lot of these flexible things we talk about.
The BC High Eagles will get Brandon Owens back, and he'll obviously help that running attack for them, but also a key contributor to this defense and a pretty good outside linebacker. We caught up with Brennan just moments ago.
You guys had a rough start to the season. You got banged up a little bit. Also, how you feeling this week?
I'm feeling real good. Ankle's feeling a little bit better. It felt good to get back. I didn't really like being on the sideline, but my team supported me. They kept me through it. Everyone said it would be all right, and people stepped up. And Coach always says plug in, plug out, and kids did their job. Underclassmen stepped up, and I feel pretty good.
First couple of weeks, run game kind of struggled a little bit. Brockton, North Attleboro. What are some of the things I guess maybe you guys learned, the mistakes in those first couple of weeks that you're applying these last couple of weeks?
I think we definitely learned how to compete. Brockton, top 10 team, Attleboro, top 10 team. We learned how to compete, even with St. Peter's and other teams, we learned how to compete and play our game. So I think those type of teams will prepare us for the conference in Everett this week, so we'll be all right.
You said you're going to be back for trying to make it the rest of the year. Let's say you got a couple other bodies coming back. Brennon Craven came back last week. How does that kind of boost you guys? Have you feel like it strengthened you guys a little bit after going through so many injuries to start?
Yeah, we feel it helped us out a lot. The guys were there before. They did what they were supposed to do, and they helped us to get through those games. And now with everybody back, it's the core, and I think we'll be just moving on with the people that we have. So it'll be good.
So let's start on these guys as a linebacker looking at this Everett offense. One week they're kind of chucking the ball around. Another week they're really getting the ground game going. What are some of the main techniques you're looking to do against these guys?
Coach has been telling us all week to stay disciplined because you really never know what's going to come at you with Coach Dibbs. It's just anything can happen, so you just got to be ready and stay disciplined and do what he tells us. And if we do what he's supposed to do, we'll be okay.
How comfortable are you guys after these last couple weeks?
We're comfortable, but we feel as though we need to be better. Coach always says one more play, one more time. We got to get better, but we feel good with the win and the bye week, coming out the bye week to Marlboro. It was a good win, but we feel as though we can be much better, so we got to keep working.
Thanks very much, Brandon. And Brendan, get that there. And we're going to get to another Brendan in just a moment here as we look at this BC High offense. Of course, one of the great weapons in the state with Lincoln Collins over here, the wide receiver, but also a team that they've kind of been searching for an offensive identity with Owens out for a while, and we're going to get to here in a couple minutes. Brandon Craven, their incoming quarterback. We haven't seen him since week 1. What can we expect from him?
Yeah, he had a pretty good game against Marlboro last week. Craven throwing for 150 yards there and went over Marlboro. You really feel for the kid because he really did everything he could in the offseason to win the starting job. The kids really rallied around him. He got Division I AA offers before he even took a snap. And then in that first game against Brockton, he leaves in the ambulance. And he comes back. Last week he's getting sharp, but he's a guy who's as we've talked about. He's in great shape. He's able to make a quick recovery there. He really has a good feel for it. He's a nice pro style quarterback, and he has a really good connection with Lincoln Collins. I got to see it a little bit in the preseason. That's a favorite target of his, and they're on the same page. They know each other's strengths and tendencies. So I'm very interested to see how that connection does in this game. Obviously, I expect a lot of interesting coverage there against Lincoln. Maybe some double teams, maybe some different shells there. But I think this is the week that BC High kind of gets their offense going again. You have to like what Craven brings to the offense. And
without further ado, we caught up with Brennon Craven just moments ago.
Brennan, I know it's been kind of a tough start for you guys for the season. I know after all you work to get that starting position, and then you go down in the first week, but you come back last couple of weeks, you'll start to looking sharp again. How you feel?
I feel good. Everything's going good, and the team's we're getting better. So I don't really have much to complain about. So it's a positive being back, and it's a positive that my other teammates are coming back. So
let's look at this Everett defense here. The defensive ends quick, very active out there. They get some, as always, the secondary is always pretty sharp, and they got a lot of speed. They can cover a lot of ground. What are some of the things that you guys try to exploit against this Everett defense?
Well, I don't want to reveal too much, obviously, but from what we've seen on film, they're in a 5-2, sometimes a 6-2, and they have 4 people back and sometimes 3. But I know Jalen and I know Jakari and Kenny really well. They're very athletic, so I'm just going to do my best to find my targets, my 2 big tight ends, Mark McGuire and B-Rob. And then I got to do my best to find Lincoln and Tim Johnson. So,
you guys had a rash of injuries to start the season. Guys are starting to come back. How has that helped you guys out?
Oh, it's a huge difference. We had basically 7, sometimes 8 starters missing, and they were key players. We had obviously Brandon out and myself, and it stunk at first, but now we're getting everybody back. We're strong, we're healthy, and we're having a good time. We enjoy each other's company. So.
Cool. As far as momentum, obviously some unfavorable results to start. Brockton, North Attleboro, St. Peter's. But these last couple of weeks, you feel like you building any sort of momentum?
Yeah, definitely. The Marlboro game for us was huge. We came out and we scored 21 points, and we kind of took our foot off the gas a little bit. But we were just executing on all cylinders, I guess you'd say. And the offensive line played great, and Skylar Evans did a great job at filling in for Brandon Owens. So I feel very comfortable with this game coming up on Friday.
Let's get your 3 keys of victory as the field general here. Let me hear your 3 keys of victory.
Well, 1, I got to find Lincoln. Lincoln's a great receiver. He's big body. Number 2, we have to have great offensive line play. Brennan's just getting back, so he needs to get his feet underneath him again. Hopefully they open some big holes. And number 3, our defense has got to step up. It stinks having Luke out. He's obviously a great linebacker, but we have kids that are behind him that are just as good. So we're looking for some underclassmen to step up, some of the athletes, and hopefully they can do that and they can keep a goose egg on the board. Probably not, but we're going to try and keep them close. So.
Thank you very much, Brennan and Brandon. Again, we're going to get to Coach Joe Gaff here in just a moment, but before we do that, Brendan, let's talk about this Everett defense. We saw a step up in a big way last week. Big game from Jeff Saluk, I thought, creating constant pressure in the backfield. Also, C.J. Parvelis, guy that, starting to see, some more quality snaps there on defense coming up big against the Hawks. This has kind of been perhaps the strength of this Everett team this year. You think about the offense last year, but really they've hung their hat on this defense quite a bit in the early going.
Yeah, I don't know if we can call it a no-name defense, but it certainly has a feel to it. A lot of guys stepping up that you haven't really heard about before. Parvelis being one, I really has come on strong last couple of weeks. We mentioned at the beginning of the season about Jeff Saluk and what kind of game he brings to the edge setting, that long, lean athleticism, just timing the snap and interrupting basically with his speed and not so much power. Omar Graciano has been a nice bookend at the other end there. And then obviously the secondary, I mean, you look at Boston College's secondary, you got Jim Noel and Manny Esprit. It's always been a strength of Everett having that secondary. Obviously Washington and Felix. Well, we don't know what Felix's status will be for the game, but Gilly D'Souza at safety. I mean, a lot of nice pieces there. Lubin Figaro, another one there. So yeah, it's a lot of new names this year, but they have athleticism, they have speed, and they're versatile.
Talking about people who are familiar with the city of Everett, Joe Gaff, who happens to be a police officer in the city of Everett. We got to look at both sides of the ball from Coach Gaff.
All right, Joe. I don't mean to sound like Terry Franconi here, running down the injured parties here, 2010, 2011. Let's just go over who's in, who's out.
Well, we get everybody back. Luke is in back, and he's coming back pretty close, and then Jaleel Johnson. But everybody's been back this week, and it's nice to have guys back. Just presence around the field and, a little more depth at practice has really helped us. But the guys that have filled in have done a tremendous job for us.
You feel like as these guys are coming back, because you started off, it was a rash of injuries. You were missing, I think, 7 stars at one point. And to have these guys back, coming back week after week and having a nice win last week against Marlboro, you think some momentum is building here?
Well, we're hoping. You're always hoping good momentum's building up. Now, you always want that when come guys. But I think just a little more flow in practice, a little more fun. These guys are pretty tight guys. They love hanging around with each other. And some of the guys felt bad because they worked hard, especially the seniors that were out. You don't ever want to see a senior miss a game for any reason. And to have them back, it's, a little more smiles are going on. So I'm hoping that turns into some momentum.
Now, the Everett game every year is a big game for the BC High, for the kids, for the coaches. But there's a little bit of special value for you. You're an Everett guy. You're a cop in Everett. You're good friends with Mike Milo, the offensive line coach over at Everett High. What does this game mean to you?
Well, you like to say it's another game, but, me and Coach Dibbs, he was my first basketball coach when I was in the 6th grade, when he was a GA over at Tufts, and he started the Everett Rats program. So I go way back with Coach Dibb a long time, and, he's a great friend of mine, and Mike Marlowe, Johnny Capper was with me, at another spot, coaching with me. It's a little special, but we keep it in perspective. We really hate playing against friends, I really do. But, it's going to be a great game, great hit, and very clean. And, you got 2 great programs, on the field and off the field. And that's what it's about. It's, it's a little extra excitement.
I think one of the key matchups here, a couple key matchups really, but let's start with the line. Obviously, a lot has been hyped about the Everett line, starting with John Montelis, the Notre Dame commit. You got a good one yourself there, and Jack McDonald, University of Virginia commit. But what are some of the things you're looking to accomplish or maybe exploit on both sides of the ball in the trenches there?
Well, if I had that answer, we'd be pretty good. But no, I think, just stay low. They do a great job. Coach Milo is a great offensive line coach. I mean, there's no question. Look what he's done in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s with his offensive lines. You just got to play physical. You got to play your gap responsibilities, and you have to stay low, especially with that size. I mean, it's nice sometimes in practice here. You can simulate other players and speed, but you just can't. We can't even simulate the size they have, and that's the biggest thing with our guys, just staying low.
And in the secondary, obviously, Everett always has a very sharp secondary, but they've proved that they're not invincible, as Barnstable showed. But what is the things that stick out, the qualities that stick out with the secondary, and how do you match up against that?
Well, they're very athletic, and the key is just stay within ourselves. Don't try to do something that other teams can do. Barnstable's a great passing team, and, we can't do what they do, but we try to run the ball well. So we try to stay within ourselves and stay with our game plan, and hopefully taking advantage of some things that we see.
Getting Brandon Owens back as your tailback after some injuries in the beginning of the year. The run game got off to a rough start there in those first 2 games, but how has it come along the last couple of weeks?
Well, I thought it's coming along really well. Skylar Evans really stepped up. He had a great effort last week, 12 carries, 104 yards. I mean, that's a great effort by a senior that stepped up for us. Biggs really stepped in for us, and we had some guys step up. Steve DeCenzo at fullback has really been helping us out. Now we put Libby in there. So we've had some guys, but Skylar Evans is really stepping up for us just as a leader on the team when some other guys went down, and playing some linebacker too. So he's done a great job for us. But it's nice having Brandon back. I mean, he's like everybody else. He's worked hard, and to have it cut short a little bit for a few weeks, but to be back healthy, it's good to see him run. He's a pretty good runner.
Now, we know what Lincoln Collins can do. A huge game against Dartmouth, had a big game for you guys last week. How big is he going to be on Friday night?
Well, they get some pretty good athletes that can cover over there in Everett. And, we have to make sure our play-action game and just get get Craven comfortable with his throws and see what happens. We're not going to force anything, over to Lincoln. We just try to let it happen, see what it progresses in our pass game.
And then finally, you mentioned about Brennon Craven here. Obviously, it was unfortunate the way things started. You work so hard as a senior to get that varsity start, and then in your first varsity start, you leave in an ambulance. You're out for a couple weeks, but he came back last week, had a nice game there. How has he been transitioning back?
Oh, he's been great. He's starting to get comfortable. I mean, here's a kid that's every passing league, he was there every night, and he went to every camp to get himself better, and he's great physical shape. And that's what really helped him get back, was being in great physical shape and mentally just knowing. I think the big news was there wasn't any permanent damage, and he was able to play, knowing he was going to be able to get back. I think really helped him mentally. And I think the team rallied around him, just like we did with all the other guys who were down, making sure that they had a place for the 4 or 5 weeks they were out, that they were part of this team. And I think that was the biggest thing that our seniors and juniors did was, how some players get hurt. We kept our guys around, made sure they were part of it and helping us out, and everybody did little parts when they were out to help. And, it was a good learning experience. But he's done a great job, and, he's a good quarterback.
Thanks very much, Coach. Brendan, that brings us to our favorite part of Thursday, always, and that is our Pick-A-Rama.
Oh, yeah.
So let's get straight into it. We got a lot of great action to get into. Another one of those interesting Bay State Conference crossover games coming up here. We saw Natick, Weymouth in our game of the week last week. This week we get Needham and Walpole. Kind of a similar matchup again. Will be interesting. Mike Rando, we understand, went down with an injury last week. A tough loss for the Rebels, but what do you got?
I still like their chances against Needham. I think they can win the game at the line of scrimmage, Walpole, and their defense right now is just rolling. A couple of big scores last couple of weeks. Chris Collins really separating himself as an all-state defensive lineman through the first half of the season. I think he continues here. I got Walpole winning this one.
Yeah, I like the depth with Walpole. I think, Rando's a tough situation. They should have him back, it seems like, for the end of the season, but I'm still going with the Rebels here. Changing pace to the Hockomock League again. Been a wild year over there. Just upsets galore, crazy stuff week to week, but we've finally gotten to the meat and potatoes of the schedule in one of those matchups that we look for every year. King Philip travels to Mansfield with just a really big Kelly Rex game.
Well, you mentioned about meat and potatoes with the Hockomock schedule, and King Philip, no offense, has been eating their dessert so far. They haven't. Mansfield has had a tougher test, I think, in the schedule, and I think it's going to show off in this game. I don't think King Philip has been tested enough to this point. No offense to the Sharons of the world and the Medfields and the Dartmouths. I think Mansfield is got something going. They're building up the last couple of weeks. Starting off my words here, but I like Mansfield in this one essentially.
Well, if they're eating their dessert, I say let them eat cake. I'm going with the King Philip Warriors here. I don't think Mansfield's quite.
You can't have your pudding without your meat, right, Pink Floyd?
Thanks again. That's our concurrent theme here, folks. We're going to bring it to you every week, but I'm going to go with the Warriors here. I don't think that Mansfield defense has quite seen a quarterback like John Dillon quite yet this season, so I'm going to go with KP in that one. We're going to swing it up to the Middlesex League. This is a critical game in whatever you want to call the small division at this point, but Wakefield, Burlington, a battle of two of the finest fan sections in the state, I must say, because they're going to want us to say that. I know that, everybody out there. But what better fan section do you have against Wakefield and Burlington?
I like Wakefield in this one. I think their defense is a little bit more tested. They're a little bit more prepared for this. Obviously, Marcus O'Dai is an elite running back in this league. Burlington's had a few injuries, but I just think overall, as far as depth, as far as more talented players, Wakefield's got a little bit of that edge. Guy I watch out for there is Bruce Brown. He had a really big game. Close to 200 yards receiving, I think. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. But a guy who's going to have a breakout campaign. But for all intents and purposes, I got Wakefield winning this one. It's going to be close, but I see them winning it.
I'm going to split the difference here. I'm going to go with the better fan section with the Red Sea at Wakefield, but I'm going to go on the field. I'm going to go with Burlington here. I think Marcus O'Dai takes care of this game. Again, we get into another critical game with potential playoff implications in the South Shore League with Mashpee traveling to Abington. Should be a great one.
It's really interesting, this one. Abington's obviously got the depth. They got some elite talent. Babel LaFunkum had been having a tremendous first half of the season. Mashpee underperformed a little bit. They came struggling out of the gates. Health is a concern, obviously, when you have depth as thin as Mashpee's. I just, I think I'm changing my tune here on the South Shore League. I know I pinned Mashpee to win the whole thing, but I like the way Abington's rolling right now. They're playing some great defense. I got them winning by a score here.
I'm going with home field advantage, and I'm going with the Green Wave. I'm going to go with Abington here, taking a really insider's route to that South Shore League crown. Shifting action over to Saturday here, a game that just got moved, folks. 1 o'clock. This game will be played at Bridgewater Raynham. We got Xaverian coming in again. 1 win for the Hawks, another tough one last week. Do they get win number 2 this week?
Whew. Wow. I picked Xaverian last week, and I think that kind of blew up in our
We
faces.
both did.
Yeah, that kind of blew up in our faces a little bit. I'm not sure where to go on this one, to be honest with you, because Xaverian, I do like the way they're playing right now, even though it doesn't show up in the win column. Yep. And I think BR, that score last week surprised some people here. I'm going to go with BR here. I got them. They've had Xaverian's number the last couple of years, past couple of times they've played. I think they can win the battle line of scrimmage. And I think they can, it's going to be a real slow ground and pound game. And I think that tends to favor BR.
Again, yeah, I think you're hitting the nail right in the head there. This is going to be a game of possession. I'm going to go with BR as well. Looking at Joey McGinnis running in front of Ryan Gallagher, one of the real breakout stars of the season, I think. Also Saturday, talk about games with real playoff implications. We saw this matchup at Gillette last year. Leominster, St. John Shrewsbury, which we, for all intents and purposes, could see back in that stage again for the Central Super Bowl title. But, St. John Shrewsbury team coming in, been licking their wounds a little bit. Leominster also got bit by the upset bug a couple of weeks back. This should be an intriguing matchup.
Yeah, I don't think either team has played very well. Leominster, I don't want to say they peaked in the Everett game in week 1, but they have not looked sharp in the weeks since. St. John Shrewsbury, really impressed us for a couple of weeks, beating Longmeadow the way they did, and that blur offense that they run so efficiently with the read option there with Shatta Brocqua, Drew Smiley, and a couple of emerging talents there with John Giacopi, Micah Cummins, etc. However, this is a St. John's defense that has allowed 100 points in the last 2 games. 100 points. Granted, Leominster needed a second half rally to overcome an Algonquin team that hasn't really been good the last couple of years. However, I think Palazzi calls a great offensive game plan. I think they're going to figure out a way to exploit some of the weaknesses in the front seven for St. John's. I think they can win this one.
I think it's a one-possession game here as well, but I'm going to go with the Blue Devils. I think they're going to repeat performance again, and they could see each other again in December, of course. But right now, I just that St. John Shrewsbury defense, it's a little bit of a cause for concern there, and I think Leominster just has a little bit more at this point. Which brings us to our game of the week here, back here at Viola Stadium, where we got some touchdowns being run apparently by the 8th grade team here. Should be a great atmosphere as always here at Viola Stadium, but we talk about this BC High team coming in, kind of looking to get some momentum, going into their Catholic Conference schedule, and of course Everett. Again, we'll see, what they come with week to week here, but let's get to the pick. What do you got, Brennan?
I got Everett winning this one. It was an interesting game last year. Everett goes up 28-7. BC High mounts a comeback, and then that brutal injury to Preston Cooper, and Everett kind of, just came away victorious there. I want to say that it'll be a closer game, but I mean, Everett's just got so many weapons. I know they got a couple injuries, and it's going to be week to week with them. But they've always found a way, other than the Barnstable game, and even then it was overtime. They always found a way to just pull it out in the end. No matter what the problem is that day. For that reason, I got to like Everett's chances in this one.
I'm going to go with Everett as well, but I think it will be a tightly contested bout. I think BC High needs to make some kind of statement here, even if it isn't a win. I think they can make a statement to the rest of the Catholic Conference here, playing a competitive game here, seeing what Xaverian did against them last week, and of course, building towards that game with St. John's Prep, which looks like they'll be in control of this Catholic Conference race here this year. I think this is a big statement game for them, but I go with the Crimson Tide in the end. And of course, a reminder to everybody that we will be here. This is our featured Massachusetts Army at National Guard game of the week, so we'll be here giving out free swag for everybody. The National Guard will be here as well, so take a moment to say hello to those folks as well. But Brennan, before we go here, anything else you get to add?
You know, it's funny. We got through the Abington pick. I didn't once mention my roots there, so I'm pretty proud of myself.
You know it, folks. Nuts and bolts, Brennan is all about Abington, and you know where we're going there. But until Friday and anything in between, all we got left is to play them. We'll see you next week, as always, on our preview show. But for now, I'm Scott Barboza. He's Brennan Hall. We'll see you next week.